All right, guys, it looks like we're live.
All right.
So welcome everybody to our first actual panel discussion featuring three of our OG UAG members that we have here, Brian, Kevin, and Julio. So guys, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves just with your name and your business when we start. I'm going to just kick it off and I'm going to hand it off to you guys to share some insights with our audience here on Echo Means Business. And right now, given the time of year, we want to talk about what happens in the winter. Do you guys, turn into groundhogs? You go to Florida, South Florida, and just fish until the grass starts to grow back in your neck of the woods? Or do you use it to actually better your business and have a stronger, larger client base in the spring? So why don't we start with you, Kevin?
Well, I'm Kevin, and my business is Fall River Lawn and Landscape, and I'm in Arkansas. So for me, the climate is kind of, we have about 3 months off where it turns into winter, grass isn't growing. We do some leaf cleanups, things like that, but the main thing for me in the winter is just take time off, kind of like you said, recharge your batteries, kind of focus on the more the business side, advertising, things like that, instead of the mowing side.
Do you actually take time off completely? Like you're not in the field at all for a month or two?
For about 3 months, I'm not really in the field at all. I mean, it's all Bermuda grass here really is the main thing. So it all goes dormant. And then after that, it's just pretty much shut down. And we don't get much snow. And when we do get snow, nobody plows snow around here because it's going to melt within 24 hours. So everybody just waits it out.
Guess that makes sense. How about you, Julio? Let's go up northeast.
All right.
No, northwest. Excuse me. You're northwest.
Yeah. So I'm Julio. Company is Cloverdale Mowing. I'm just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. For the winter, I mainly shut down. Our winters are pretty mild here for the most part. We get, people think Canada is going to be covered in snow and stuff. It just depends on where you are. Last year, we did get hammered for the first time in a long time, probably 6-7 years since it was that bad. We will usually get a day or two of snow each year, but for the most part, it melts on its own, and there's not really much to do as far as that goes. But for the most part, I work on the back end of my business doing website updates, making sure links are all still working with the website, making sure things like Google Places and all that stuff is still in order. There's a lot of changes that take place with a lot of these online technologies. Google may update certain things, and throughout the season, you're not quite paying attention to that stuff because you're out there working and mowing lawns, and you get home and you're just too tired for that. So in the winter, it's sort of a catch up to see what new features have been added that you're not taking advantage of for your business, and sort of do that, work on the back end, and then of course on my podcast and stuff like that as well.
Why don't you give a shout out to your podcast? I'm sure most of the people that are watching this probably already know it, given how popular it is, but you might as well share it.
Yeah, it's called the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. It's on iTunes. I've been doing it every Tuesday, or releasing an episode every Tuesday for the last going on almost 3 years now. I think we're at episode 127 now. I've interviewed a bunch of guys, including Brian and Kevin, and a bunch of other guys that are popular on YouTube as well, obviously all landscaping and lawn care businesses. And it's going really well. And this year, hope to sort of get out of my shell a bit and away from behind the microphone and onto YouTube as well, and start to do some more on that platform.
Did you hear that, Kevin? He's gunning for you.
Yeah, he's coming after us.
All right, why don't we switch over to the last guy who was late on our call.
My name is Brian Fullerton, and I run Brian's Lawn Maintenance. I'm up here in Metro Detroit, Michigan, and very similar to these guys, 9-10 month season, and then basically for December, January, February, we do snow removal. We actually do get some snow removal, unlike kind of a mixed blessing. It does pay the bills and it does keep the money coming in, but you know, it's hit or miss. Sometimes we'll get sometimes we'll get winter, so it all depends. We've not been known to, or we've been known to also get 100 inches of snow, you know, and that was just ridiculous. So that broke all the records. So we threw down for a new truck this year, so we're going to be plowing snow. I did it before residentially with snow blowers, but we're taking our snow game double and triple this year to the next level. So super excited about that, as you can imagine.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that for those in the audience that do have that, you know, opportunity to extend their business and make money with snow removal or other winter services. Or how do you ramp up for something like that? What type of equipment, if there's somebody that wants to get into that, you know, where they've got a month or two or more of snow, but they're typically traditional landscapers working on grass and hardscapes, what do they need to know, or what do they need to invest in to make that pay off for them?
Honestly, it all depends on what level you want to play at. Like you said, if you want to make big money and good money, you can always, you know, buy a 250 or, you know, pick your truck, but you need a 3/4 ton or above usually. And then a bus plow, Western plow, again, it's all up to you guys, what you want to do. But it really just depends on how much money you want to make, how big you want to get, how much you want to throw in. Of course, whatever you know, invest in, you'll. So if you want to buy a truck and a plow, you can make money that way. Do Toro 621, 721 snow blowers for the last 4 or 5 years, and driveways, you know, per snowstorm in 3 or 4 hours. If you're a younger guy and you're just getting started, pick up a shovel and go pick up a couple accounts and just keep the money coming in. It all adds up. Again, shovel, we've upgraded to snow blowers, and you know, it took me a couple of years to get to buy that big truck and that big plow. Starting to compound now, but I think you just got to decide if it's something you want to add to your services, and if so, make the decision and just go for it.
Yeah. You know, I think, Julio, I saw you post a video over, I think it was towards the end of last year. You were using a PAS attachment with a paddle, I think, to get, was it you
no,
or somebody?
No, it wasn't with me, but I started out when we do get snow, just with a shovel, your basic snow shovel, and I would just do client driveways and sidewalks and stuff. And then I upgraded to a 2-stage snow blower and started using that. And I found too that, you know, like I said, for the investment required, it all depends on where you're at and how much snow you get in your region. So for me, I couldn't ever justify getting a snowplow for the truck. But there's, you know, I'm a single owner operator for my lawn care business. But there's larger landscaping businesses around me that already have bobcats and, you know, those types of machines already, and they'll utilize those. And what I found was I partnered up with one of those companies, and they would do all of the malls and like grocery store parking lots and stuff, but they didn't have, you know, the manpower because it's such, you know, if we get a dumping of snow, it's all at once. So they would subcontract me, and I would just go there with my snowblower and just do the perimeter sidewalks and in front of the store and stuff. And then they would take care of the parking areas and all that sort of stuff. So I found that was sort of a happy medium for me to sort of partner up with a larger company that already has equipment in place, but just needs extra manpower and stuff. And I would go and do that.
I imagine that must be reciprocal though, because in the summertime, you know, a good opportunity once you have those relationships with those bigger companies, if there's ever, you know, an opportunity to help them out or them to help you out, that just sounds like good business sense.
Yeah, it does work out. And we have just this near the end of the season here, that same company called me and they did a large install for a client, and you know, they don't do the maintenance, so they passed it off to me, seeing if I was interested in taking that client on long term to do the maintenance after they finish the install. So yeah, it works back and forth. We go back and forth, and you know, I had a client that was sort of the similar area where they had a paved stone patio, and it was starting to sink over a few years. And I don't do paved stone, so I referred them, and they ended up doing that job and redoing all the paved stone.
Kevin, I thought you were going to add something there towards the end.
Yeah, I actually have a question for Brian because this is going to show how little I know about snow removal. But are you able to use that big plow to remove snow from like driveways?
Yes. Yes, we're going to back blade all of our driveways, and then we just push it right into their front yard or over the sidewalk area. Pretty simple actually, and you can be very productive if you do it right. Although I will admit I'm a little jealous of the fact that you don't have to do snow. So if maybe I'll take a trip down south to Florida or Arkansas. So, but that's awesome. Yeah.
I think you're going to have a great experience. It'll sure beat, as you know, being behind a snowblower when it's super cold and it's windy and the snow's blowing in your face. And if you can be in a nice warm truck with your just dropping the plow down, drinking your coffee, I think you're going to be a huge upgrade there.
So if you were doing 35 driveways with a snowblower, how many are you planning to do with the truck?
We may have lost his feed.
Yeah, we have a frozen screen.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Everybody there.
You're back.
So basically, I'm starting with the same base of residential as last year. We have about 40 people again, and then we picked up a commercial strip mall. And then after that, because it's my first year, I'm not taking on anything more per se. Get my route figured out the first 1 or 2 snowfalls, and I get comfortable. I've got a couple different guys, kind of like what Julio said. Everybody kind of tag teams together with snow because it all comes at once. So there's a guy in the area. He probably does $10 million a year in snow. He's one of the biggest in the whole state of Michigan. And so I'm going to be subcontracting for him. I've got a couple other buddies that same thing. They've got complexes, apartment complexes, commercial strip malls, and anything I can do to keep the plow moving, making $75, $100, $125 an hour. That's the goal. But I don't want to be obligated to do anything my first season other than my regular base. So that way I'm not feeling overwhelmed or stressed out or don't feel like I'm going to get behind or get bit. So, it's my first year plowing with the truck, and it's my first year with the new plow. So again, I like to pace myself into things. And if I don't have to perform, then it's almost that much better. Although we're going to keep moving the truck as much as we can once those snowstorms hit, because like you guys know, you can be doing snow for 20 hours straight. And a lot of money on the table if you do it right. So, yeah.
There's something you have to keep in mind as well, though, that I found with commercial snow removal as well, as you don't want to overcommit yourself and then be scrambling, because with snow removal, we've had days like when it does snow here where, like last year, we got hammered. So if you're out there and you have a bunch of sites to do, let's say 20 sites or something that you're going to, by the time you finish that first site and you start moving to that second one, it's still snowing on that first site. And by the time you make your rounds to the 20th, that first site is like buried in snow again. And you're working round the clock. There's no time to stop. And you have to remember with commercial stuff that there's the liability part of it. You are the one responsible. If there's a business, a mall hiring you out to do snow removal, if you don't have your proper insurance in place to do that, and you've cleaned that drive or that parking lot, it's perfectly safe, and you go, do 2 or 3 more sites, that first one is now treacherous again, and you haven't even gotten to the last ones. It's the one thing, like it's what you're saying there about not being committed to thing is, I think, a great plan for you to start out, because then you're, you can sort of gauge what you can do this first year with the new plow being, and learning it and seeing what you can do and not being stuck with that, because the liability can be huge. And like I say here, we don't get that much snow, but I've colleagues and stuff that I know that have already had issues because some little old lady will be walking in front of the store and she slips and falls, and now that grocery store is calling on you because you're the contractor to keep that clean. Right, so they don't care that you've got 20 other sites that you've committed to. You have to make sure that they're all taken care of and that they're all safe at all times. So just something to think about.
Yeah,
So
no, totally. Totally
Is
agree.
there a minimum amount of snow that you just go out for, or do you wait for the customer to call you, like on the residential side?
No, we have a 2-inch trigger, so anytime it's 2 inches or more, we go out. We don't salt any of our residentials. A lot of guys and customers, I should say, don't want us to, just because of the fact that it tears up the driveway with that rock salt. So we don't go out and do any of the salting for the residentials. The contracts, like Julio said, everything that we have CYA after CYA clauses in our contracts. So if you know, Aunt Mildred falls and breaks her hip, we're not going to be on the line for that. So we have hold harmless. We got everything like that. I have my stuff that was written by another guy who's coaching me in business for snow, and I'm using his contracts, and they're very wordy, and they're very technical, and they're very hedging, you know, and protecting us, which is really cool. So and again, like you said, Julio, you know the game as well, is that there's enough people here in Michigan where they have hand over fist amount of snow that there's no way that they can handle on their own. So the best part about the lawn and landscape community, I always feel, is community, and a lot of guys just seem to tag team. You know, guys will, and almost anybody respectively can cut grass, but if you want to play the snow game, it takes some good investment of equipment and resources, especially if you're buying salt. So a lot of guys up here, they tag team together. And again, like you were saying, I'm going to be making my rounds and figure out my time, seeing what I can take on. And of course, next year, I'll probably double it. You know what I mean? Once I know what I can do. But in the meantime, if I'm just all done with my stuff and sitting around, there's no doubt in my mind that somebody out there is looking to get bailed out, and they'll pay top dollar for that help. So yeah, we'll keep it moving and keep making that money, and you know, see what comes of it. So.
The topic of insurance is a good one, because anybody, you know, in terms of who the audience is out there, for those of you looking to move into it, you know, have to consider not just the equipment, but the insurance that's required. Brian, I got one more for you, and that is on the issue of that, how about safety equipment? Obviously, that's a big thing for guys in your industry. Is there anything that they should know about what safety equipment they need?
With regards to snow removal, it never ends. And I mean, obviously with the vehicle, there's so many different things with proper lighting, LED light bars, making sure that you meet your state and local laws. Of course, up here in Michigan, we have MDOT. So every state's different. Every area has their own laws, and then there's laws on top of laws. So you always want to make sure that you're covering your butt. In terms of equipment that you can use, light bars are great. You can, gosh, it never really ends, because you want to make sure that you're taking care of those customers. You want to make sure everybody is being safe. My biggest thing is communicating to that customer proper expectations. That's probably the biggest one I can tell people is, hey, you know, we are going to be out there in a little while in that window, and if you come out before then, or you open up your business before then, let's be realistic. Everybody wants it done yesterday, like Julio was saying, but you got to also be realistic. If it's an 8-inch snowstorm emergency, the road, in my opinion, they almost have what's coming to them, because you need to let the professionals, as Boss would say, restore order. Up here, people know the game. They go, you know, get their food and their groceries and all that stuff beforehand. But if you're going out there during a snowstorm, be patient with all the guys like us trying to get the job done. And unfortunately, sometimes people just track on out there and almost do more harm than good, and they get in the way of guys like us trying to get the job done. Everybody's different, and you can't really hold those people back. People are going to do whatever they want to do. So,
yeah, I found that as well. The few times that we would do the snow removal, I would have, you know, working for that other guy. He'd say, you know, you need you to head over to this city and do this bank, and then go to this and do this bus depot and stuff. And it was like this. Some sites would be on a normal day a 10-minute drive, and it would take me 2 hours to get there, because of traffic and people driving without snow tires and things. It was just gnarly at times.
All right, I'm going to go, the time that we have left, I want to flip this a little bit, because there are a lot of people who don't have the option to shovel snow because there's no snow. Kevin from Fall River is here as one of those examples, who basically spreads on the suntan lotion, puts his feet up, and does nothing. While the rest of the world continues to work. But isn't that a challenge, either from personal experience or with what you know in terms of maintaining staff? So can we talk for just, again, personal experience, or what you know from your own interviews with others in the industry, and then we can go across the panel here. What are some of the challenges or tips that you have for people when it comes to maintaining staff when you don't have a winter season that you continue to operate in?
I think for me, the biggest thing to make it through the winter is, for me, I create what I call a winter fund. And all year long, I'm saving up money. I've figured up what my bills are going to be for every month that I'm off, and I want to make sure those are covered. So I'm always sticking that money back to make it through that. I don't have a staff at this point. I know other guys that I've talked to that do have a staff. A lot of them will lay these guys off. Some of them will do unemployment or something like that through the winter, or find a small job. And I know it creates a problem in the spring, because some of those guys go out and find a new job, and then they don't want to come back in the spring because they've found another job. So I know staffing, that creates a problem. Some guys do salary, where they just pay a set amount every single month. And in the summer, when you're working, 60 hours a week, you're still getting paid for your 40 hours. But in the winter, when you're not working, you're still making a paycheck.
That's interesting. Julio, any experiences or thoughts from your neck of the woods?
As far as employees, I've never had employees, so I wouldn't have anything in that respect. But, my clients, they will tend to always ask me what I do in the winter for the most part, because they know, everything slows down. And I just tell them that I've learned the art of the squirrel. Just as Kevin said, I collect my nuts all throughout the year, and I put them away for the winter. And it's just budget, budget, budget. Make sure you have enough to cover those bills throughout the winter when there's no guarantee of work. Here it's pretty mild. Like I said, rarely get that snow. And the weather is typically, if you're not familiar with this area or part of the world, most people are familiar with Seattle, Washington, and rain, rain, rain. Well, we're about 2 hours away from there, so it's exactly the same. It's just the Pacific Northwest. Rain, rain, rain all year. We do as much as we can, do some cleanups and stuff, but there comes a point in time, that dries up as well. You've caught up on all of that, and you're going to typically have at least 2 months, 3 months of nothing else other than maybe that occasional snowstorm. It's just budget, and that's about it. But from my experience, from the guys around here that I do know that have employees, they're just basically, it's the same scenario. You lay them off, unfortunately, and hopefully they're available come the following spring. But that's not always a guarantee, obviously, because everybody's got to pay their bills, and they might find something else that they need to do to pay the bills.
One of the contributors here at Echo Means Business was working on a post that talked about hiring students, and what they do is they'll look for college kids that they employ because they're eager for work, they're hard workers. They can pay them probably a little bit less than what they'd have to pay a grown-ass man with 3 kids and a mortgage, and it's never really a challenge to get them to come back, because they look forward to that until, of course, they graduate, and then they got to train a whole new crop.
Yes.
So that, I guess, enters another part of a possible solution and problem. Great to have summer students that way, but the training costs then, and the acquisition costs of those people every time might be kind of difficult.
Yeah. It's tough too with students. I've, from just my talking to other guys in that situation of hiring students or trying to hire students, because they don't have that mortgage to pay, they can be not quite as reliable and more into the calling in the morning and, making excuses for not wanting to come into work. And then you're stuck holding the bag and having to do everything yourself anyways. It's kind of a tough situation there.
All right. Well, seeing how Brian was the last person to come in because he was late, did I mention that Brian was late and kept everybody waiting? I'm going to give him the last word in terms of any experiences that you have with that, like you're working throughout, so it'd be less of a challenge for you to keep staff because you've got work for them. But are there any challenges associated on the other side when you do have them?
Well, right now I still use, like Julie was saying, I use college kids and I use just extra guys on the side of what they do 9 to 5. For me, I feel like so far I've had a pretty endless labor pool. I grew up with a bunch of friends that we've all stayed friends, and they're all neighbors. They all live in the area, and so when you throw, like you were saying, Sam, some top dollar people's way, you have people coming back. And I actually kind of do the opposite with the younger guys. I pay them pretty much more than they're going to make almost anywhere else. It's not uncommon for, while cutting grass, my guys to make $15 to $20, $25 an hour. And people like that's one of my secrets to that endless labor pool. And I kind of do it a little bit opposite, a little bit backwards than everybody else. I expect people to perform. My people are trained. They know what to do. And same thing, when we have good people beget good people. So I always have that referral list with brothers going, from brother to brother, or good friend to good friend, school buddy to school buddy, where it's not uncommon where I'm 4 people deep in that referral list of good people that beget good people, and they're all cut from that same cloth. So that's one thing that I would kind of encourage people to do is, if you're going to be putting ads on Craigslist, well, you're going to get what you are going to get from a Craigslist post. But if you got good college kids and good family friends that you can hire out and then pay them top dollar. I have many guys that work 40, 50-hour week jobs that do concrete, corporate America. But if we put a phone call out, and whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, we're going out to do snow, well, who's not going to jump on $25 an hour cash? So these kind of guys, they're always available. They're always here to help out. Next year, to fast forward, I'm going to be transitioning to having full-time hired help that we're going to try to keep on year round. And same thing, there's another company down the road that's massive. And what a lot of guys in the area do is they just give your people to that guy for about 3 months. And he's always doing landscape work, install work. He just never ends. And he's got a massive company. So I know a lot of people that use his services to kind of work together. And then you can just bring those people back full time in March and April. So it's just kind of win-win, and it's kind of win-win, and everybody helps each other out. So.
Oh, there we go. I was on mute. Thanks, guys. We are out of time here for today, so I want to say thanks. I was writing some notes as you guys were talking, so there's 2 takeaways that I got from this that just stuck in my head anyway. Number 1 is never wait to start a meeting on Brian because he's going to be late. And number 2 is the art of the squirrel. Never heard that phrase before. Julio, I think that's going to be a really good podcast series for you. The art of the squirrel. I love it. I want royalties on that. So anyway, watch, for those of you that are watching, follow Echo Means Business, because there will be a lot more of these panel discussions amongst not only the user advisory group members that are helping us manage this campaign and directing the content and the community, but also from the general members that are going to be coming out frequently. So thanks, guys, for your time and for your insights. I look forward to chatting with you all again.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye.